I have to be honest. I don't know what Sunday is going to look like. For he always sat there on the chair, and people would come to greet him. He was kind of like the Pope, you know. People would come in and leave. Grandkids, kids, his priest, right? His friends. Everybody would stop over on the couch and just say hi to him. He was a man of few words, but a man of great action. Melvin preached all the time. He just didn't have to use words to do it. And that's a tremendous gift, to let charity, to let your actions speak louder than your words. His faithfulness to God, his faithfulness to his family, his faithfulness to his brothers and sisters, to anyone who was in need. They had a friend in Melvin. We all did. We were talking the other day and someone said, you know, he was never terribly worried about what he was wearing or stuff in the world. And you could see that if you knew him, right? He wasn't a man that was terribly concerned with things. Things never seemed to play a huge role for him. But people sure did. People are far more important than things. You see, the biggest things that we can own in this world, a stash of gold bricks, when we get to heaven, it's not worth a thing. But the love that Melvin had for God, for his friends, his family, his neighbors, that is truly valuable. And we know that because it says in the gospel today that God's building a house for Melvin. Kind of nice, right? Both Melvin and the Lord worked in wood, right? You know, they got something in common. It's always good to have something in common with Jesus, right? That can't hurt. But Jesus is making a home for Melvin. He says so himself. Because he knows that those relationships, they were the most important things for him. So he's building a space, maybe a big house, right? For Melvin, so that his family and friends can come and visit him. And he can sit on that heavenly couch and receive everyone anew.
And it was early December. And the day we moved in, we saw all grass. We brought the equipment in, and it was getting close to dark. And there was a grass sitting in a tree right above our head. And the next day, when we got there, it would just come around and just walk around you. It was like it was partially tame or something. Of course, Dad didn't want nobody to mess with it none. And so it probably 6 weeks or 2 months it was around there. It would come and go, but you could watch it. It would go and eat stuff. And one day I was cutting the trees. It was getting close to quitting time. And I cut two, and I was cutting the third tree. Just as it fell, here come the grouse, and I cut the tree and killed it instantly. It died. Well, no use in letting a good grouse go to waste.
For years, I was the person that got the Christmas tree. We usually got it a few days before Christmas. Several years, there was a Christmas tree, an old Christmas tree farm down in Wing Cave. And so, usually the Sunday before Christmas, because the Forestry Service didn't work on Sunday, I'd go down there with a chainsaw and I'd steal a Christmas tree from the old Christmas tree farm and I'd bring it home.
Do you remember how our presents were wrapped? And one year Dad wrapped everything and he just put it in garbage bags and duct tape. Black garbage bags and duct tape. All of our presents were wrapped. But the year we moved into the new house, my mom said the house was our gift and we didn't need presents from her. So we had drawn names and that was our gift, but we didn't get presents from them that year because this house was our present. I do remember. And our decorations for the tree, they were pretty dismal. We had some homemade ornaments, a few of which I still have on my tree from some material that came from the dollar store. And they were like
those angels and angel things that were stuffed. And I think Mary led up making them.
I remember making them.
Mary made them.
But they weren't red and green and Christmas colors. They're blue and yellow and orange.
There was about 5 years when you all were going to school that the weather was bad and And I mean, there was 3 months that you all did not go to school. And so you all put the Christmas tree up early that year. And of course, we did have some glass ornaments, but they all got broken and things like that. But you could just take these cloth ornaments off and wash them and put them right back on the tree. So
This is the oldest one. I think I got it in blue. It's pretty handmade. I don't see how they could possibly made it, but they did, I guess.
do you remember how much you paid for it, Dad?
No, I don't remember.
Paid $10 for it.
Had a man made these cabinets, and they are all cherry. The thing about them is, if you know anything about woodworking, these cabinets, this is a kind of a raised, this panel here, this panel right here is taller and thicker than these outside ones. The first idea, I think, was to put it together like this, but that don't plan out too good, because no matter how much you put it together, you always got a crack right behind that. We would start out by stripping it a little. Use this wood heat right here to basically, other than the room heat, to heat the whole house, because it goes upstairs. And come to find out, though, that over time we kind of overheated the stove, because there was a flue right up here, and it had charcoal all the way around where the flue was.
So that we could have some hardwood floors out of his lumber. Well, we weren't going to have enough lumber for the walls down here. And so some friends, a friend of Papa's, Ed Johnson, they built a house about the same time that we built a house. And they put rough lumber in their family room. And I told Papa, I said, that's what we need. I said, the boys can bounce balls off the walls, they can kick the walls, they can do anything they want to, and it won't make any difference. So that's the reason that we got rough lumber down here, and I think it just made the best room. This was always my favorite room here. People would call them lumber orders. So we would get a pencil or a pencil and write on the wall, write these lumber orders on the wall. And because that way they couldn't get away, they couldn't get lost. Nobody could tear up the paper, or the paper wouldn't get lost. So,
I have wonderful parents. That goes without saying. They taught us lots of things. They taught us how to work hard. They taught us how to offer things up. They taught us
the honor and glory of the Lord.
That's right.
Yes, that's what Mom always says. The honor and glory of the
No
Lord.
matter what it was, you could offer it up for the honor and glory of the Lord. And if you grumbled too much, you were losing your reward in heaven. So you might as well just quit grumbling. Whatever the problem, she always had to come back, no matter what the problem or what the situation was in there. And I think they did an excellent job raising 9 children and teaching us what's important, and that's your family and working hard to serve the Lord. So I do thank you all for that.
that we were poor as church mice, and Papa said he wanted to buy it, and I thought he'd lost his mind. But anyway, it worked out, and he bought it, and he was able to pay for it. He borrowed half the money. It was what, $15,500, and he borrowed half the money from Father Biding, and the other half from the Jackson County Bank. I think I had a couple $100 from somewhere I'd saved before I married, and put that in on it. And he raised tobacco and paid for it. And it is his pride and joy.
I think there's about 220 or 30 acres. but it's in two separate tracts, and so it's all surrounded by the government. And of course, other people, back then, I don't know, this man that had this, I never did actually meet him. He lived up in Indiana somewhere. And so all the work was done with lawyers signing the paperwork and so on. And I guess I'm more attached to it than any other place that I probably have.
Dad, do you remember this duck picture?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been in your house. Do you remember anything about it? Huh?
I thought it belonged to the Durhams.
It did belong to the Durhams. That's correct. So in high school, I did a lot of pictures, and this is actually a chalk drawing. I think it's chalk or pastels, maybe. And so when I did it, Dad saw me do it because I was working on it here, and he really liked it. So I guess I don't know if he thought he was going to get it or what, but I had a boyfriend at the time, Donald Durham. So guess who got the picture? It was Donald. And Dad always thought he was going to get that picture. Now he got plenty of other pictures. That's a picture he got right there of mine. Jenny inherited pictures with the house when she got the house from Mom and Dad. But anyway, so I gave it away. And he didn't have it, and he pouted about it. He would tell me about it. I wanted that duck picture, he would say. I didn't give him anything. He'd still say, I wanted that duck picture. That's the one I wanted. And so lo and behold, when I broke up with him, I don't know, a few months later at college, all of a sudden he brought the duck picture back to me and gave it to me. And so Mom and Dad got the duck picture.
Dad catch a big bullfrog, bring it home, put it in the bathtub, and kept it in there for one solid week.
Sure did. Sure did. I remember all the bullfrogs.
We couldn't take a bath for a week because Dad caught a bullfrog home and put it in the bathtub.
We would go on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I was with Dad, and he would find these old chimneys, and then he would usually go and buy them, and then usually on a Sunday we would go and either tear the chimneys down and load them up on the trucks and then bring them out here. But now I think that mantle rock right there, I'm pretty sure it came from Elsie Gay. He told Doodlebug and ZT to go load it up and put it on and bring it out to the house. And they said they couldn't do it. Dad just thought, you go do it. And it obviously got here somehow. Got into place right here. But all these rocks and what's outside, they were all native to Jackson County in old chimneys.
We hadn't been living in this house very long. I don't know how many years we lived here when the fire happened. Hadn't been that long because I was still young. And I remember it was a summer day, or actually was it in the fall?
It was in the fall.
It was in the fall, and there had actually been a fire. We burned our trash down where the ball court is now. And earlier in that day, there was actually a little fire that broke out down there, a little grass fire somewhere near that, and we put it out. I recall that. And then that evening, I got woke up out of bed with Dad yelling fires, if I remember correctly. We all came rushing down, and there was a fire that was up in the attic, and it started over what was the carport. And so first we had outside spigot that we were trying to fill up. We had some buckets, and he was trying to fill up the water with the spigot, and that wasn't fast enough. So there's a cistern underneath the carport where we got our water, or some of it. And we got down there, we were handing buckets up, and Dad crawled up into the attic where the scuttle hole was. And he was dousing the fire with buckets full of water as we had a bucket brigade going on. And he got the fire. We worked so hard to call, Mom had called the fire department.
Oh, it was also raining like crazy.
Yes, it was.
There was a huge rainstorm. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
I mean, it was like downpour. downpour. It probably actually helped the fire.
Yeah, it helped.
probably helped.
It helped save, Dad said it helped save the house because it kept the roof cool.
Yeah.
He said if it had gotten through the roof, that the house would have been a lot more damage or maybe totally gone down.
Yeah, but
He burned his fingers because there was a roll of tar paper that was on fire, and he grabbed it and threw it out.
he threw
And then he took a chainsaw and he cut holes right over here in the corner where the fire was.
Yeah, so
Like that.
our apartment got here, and so they doused the whole attic full of water, and it all came through the
We had
roof
more
in
water
here.
damage.
And there was a lot more water damage than there was damage to the actual house. And you can see it. This was part of the reason that this is buckled, but this floor was really, really buckled for years. Dad joined the volunteer fire department. For years, he was a volunteer fire department because they came out and helped save our house. But the truth is, it was Dad that saved the house because it was pretty much out before they even got here.
There was popping and a cracking, and I remember him going down the stairs cursing because he thought the water had broken.
Oh,
Because it sounded like that.
well, you know what? It sounded like,
Because cedar pops and cracks, and
Yeah.
this was all cedar. And
I-
then it was
yeah.
fire, and it was just a few seconds
Yeah,
later.
I
Fire.
remember I was really early in the morning, and Dad said the house is on fire. He said, "Get the kids out, get the kids out." And you know, everybody got up and got out, and we tried to send Jenny back in to get shoes for somebody.
I don't remember that.
I-
Was that successful or not?
No, you were afraid to come back in. You would not come. I don't remember who needed
Sounds
shoes.
like-
I'm glad that you decided to send Jenny back in and put in the fire. We were at the old house, and Dad would work all day. He'd deliver lumber up until the night, and then he would drive back home. And one day he drove back home and he yelled at all us kids to come out on the porch. And he had a snake wrapped around his arm. You remember that, Dad? He had stopped beside the road in his lumber truck and picked up a snake, and he'd wrapped it around his arm, and he drove that truck home with the snake wrapped around his arm so he could show us. And he got to the porch, and we all came out, and he was showing us all the snake, and it actually bit him while he was there. And I remember he took matchsticks and he forced its mouth open so we could see its fangs.
I remember when me and Weasel, he's called Weasel, but he don't like to be called that now, it's Steven, we got lice. It seems like we got lice on a pretty regular basis for whatever reason. And we was at the sawmill, and Dad decided that he was going to take care of the problem, and he took a pop bottle full of diesel fuel and poured it on Steven's head first. And Steven started crying. And then I was dreading it, probably trembling, shaking because I was scared. But at that time I had hair, but he poured it on it, and best I remember, that probably pretty well took care of the lice problem.
He did. That sure did.
So I was either 6th grade or 7th grade going into the next grade. And that's when we and Pete started working at the sawmill. And we actually got paid. Now, family wages are different. Family wages are all you can eat. But you don't actually get any money. But it's all the food you want. So I still remember, we got paid $10 a day to work. So we would work the rest of the day. We got paid $50 a week, and Dad always paid us. And Mom made our lunch for us, so we didn't have to buy it.
With Dad would probably the Saturdays that I would go to the sawmill with him. There was a lot that was involved with that. I think maybe it was Mom getting us out of the house. With children, I now understand that more than ever. But to leave and go to the sawmill with him was very special. And I remember some of the things that if anybody got slabs at $1 a load, I got to collect those dollars. So it was a heyday if you had 3 or 4 people. And lunch was usually at Dow Abner's. And it was bologna sliced with a butcher knife on crackers. But what I remember is being able to get a glass bottle of Pepsi out of the cooler. And it was the kind that you had to open yourself on the side. Those are really strong memories for me, and it has shaped me for spending time with my children, especially one-on-one.
I was rolling logs in to the carriage, and I saw something come up and hit him in the head. And there was a huge gash. It was probably 3 inches. Came on his head. And he was gushing blood down the side of his head. He really probably needed to go to the hospital. So he stopped the saw for a second. He took his fingers and he pinched it together. I don't even see how he could see because blood was running into his eyes. He pinched it together, and then he got some duct tape that he kept wrapped around. It was beside the saw there that he always kept, and he duct taped it together and went straight back to work and didn't even slow down.
And I would come out of the room in the morning, and I would always see Dad sitting on the step right here, and he would always be ready, trying to get awake, and he would be ready, and he would be putting his boots on right here, and his boots always stood right here, and beside of those was always a pile of sawdust, but he always left his boots right here. And he would put his boots on there, and he would never really tie his boots. I don't really know what he did, but he would just wind them around and tie them the best he could because he's missing a few fingers from the sawmill.
We were out at the sawmill one time, and we were loading a big truck full of firewood, and I remember Papa was standing on the side of the truck, and we about had the truck full of firewood, and I was just behind the truck pitching firewood, and I remember I threw a piece of wood. It was a big chunk of wood, felt about like that. And it bounced off another piece of the wood that was sitting in the truck, and it fell and hit Papa right in the back. It's probably 50 pounds. I thought he was going to yell at me, and all he did was laugh.
I'm the adopted one. And I'll tell that story first. So apparently my parents worried about me coming all the way to Kentucky from Iowa. And I came there as a volunteer at St. Paul's Church. And I came the first week in December, and right before Christmas, my parents came up on their way to visit my uncle in North Carolina. So they hadn't visited him in years, but for some reason this year they had to go visit him. I'm sure to check up on Judy. So when they came, of course they met Mama and Papa. And I didn't know this till like 40-some years later, probably about 30-some years later, that on that trip, Mama promised my parents that she would take good care of me. And she has for all these years. So not only did they take good care of me, but I worked several years at the church, then went to work for the city of McKee, and then worked for the county. And there was a change in county government, and the judge that was running had politic that he was going to get rid of that foreign Catholic girl. So everybody knew in May that I was losing my job come January 1st. So from May to January, a lot of things happened. So, Ma'am, I'll let you tell what happened in May after the election.
Okay, so I had a dream. Well, we had just moved to the big house. We haven't lived there very long at all, and I had a dream that Judy was being put out of her house, and I really didn't know anything about this, about the job situation with Judy in the city of McKee or the county, whichever it was. But anyway, so I went to Papa and I said, Papa, can we build you a house out there where we live? There's enough room out there. And most of the time Papa would say no, but he said, yeah, I guess we can. So that is how the little house came into being. And so Judy, you go from there.
Okay, so that happened just shortly after the election in May. So end of May, Joyce and Melvin came to me after church and said, we got an idea. We want to build a little efficiency apartment out by our place there for you because we know that you're going to maybe be out of employment come January and we don't want to lose you. So I said, don't do it because I may have to move out of county, out of state, I don't know where. But they didn't listen very well because pretty soon Papa had a little house plan there and asked me, he said, thinking about this size of house and, you know, how would you like the rooms arranged? So I kind of like drew up this little plan, but I said, don't do it because I don't know what's going to happen. So every year about this time, John for sure, and usually one of the other Marxes went up north with me for a week or two to go fishing. So when we came back from the lake, Papa had to take us out to this little place. He already had the footers dug and the foundation laid. So I guess they didn't listen at all, because by July the foundation was already laid up and they were building this house. So Papa was building this big fireplace in there because he had this fireplace from another farm he was moving to it. And I'm going like, you don't have to do the expense of a fireplace. And he said, well, maybe someday I'll live here and I want a fireplace.
This is by far the hard thing.
Yeah, it's always a hard thing. I know.
You always tell me there's a way, my mom.
There is. There is. There's no doubt in my mind, but that we will get through it. But if if it wasn't hard, then we wouldn't have loved him.
That's right, Mom. You've certainly done your part for Papa.
Well, thank you.
99%.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
Taking good care of him the last year, because he has been.
I've tried to do it the whole 58 years. I've done the very best he would let me do. He has this very bad stubborn streak. He does things his way, but that's okay. That's okay. So, yeah, because we all would not be who we are if it was not for him.
That's right, Mom. You wouldn't be here. I mean, we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here. I'd probably still be. Well, I had gone to Louisville, but Louisville wasn't, it was where I was, but it wasn't where I wanted to spend the rest of my life. And
well, the Lord put you and Papa right here, exactly where you need to be, Mom.
Yes, He did. This has been a wonderful place. This is home.
It is, Mom. It's home.
Well, it's been wonderful. It has been wonderful. This is where we belong. The wonderful children that we have, and the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren, and the in-laws, and the outlaws.
We love you, Papa. All right, Mr. Marks, my father, I want to tell you that this is not a goodbye, but this is a thank you. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for shaping me and who I am. Thank you for shaping me because you shaped me to shape my children. Thank you, Dad, for all the memories that I'm going to carry in my heart and my mind. Thank you, Dad, for loving me, and I love you. We love you, Dad.
Papa, love you very much. We thank you for everything you've given this family for the last 80 years. And the legacy that you leave behind with your children and your grandchildren. Your hard work ethic and your love of the Lord. You've taught us all some valuable lessons. And we will love you forever. We love you, Papa. And I'm so glad that you have raised me to be the woman that I am today. And all the times I see you coming late from work with your dinner bucket and expecting me to make it the next day. And I would always throw surprises in there for you, and I will never forget that. Thank you for the stability you've given this family between you and Mom. And I love it. Just to show us how hard it is for marriage and family and life to work. But there was always a way. So, thank you, and we love you.
It's just been a really hard day. What can I say? A few days. But couldn't have asked for any better parent or better dad than we had. He is absolutely the best that there ever was. And good Christian man. We prayed the rosary all the time. He always tried to do the right thing. He tried to take care of people. And he was just a loving, wonderful father. You know, I mean, he might not have been the best at doing the dishes or helping out with the chores, but he was a wonderful person that always thought of other people. He would do anything to help you. He had good advice for you. He was funny. He would, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's kind of hard to think of things, you know, while we're kind of put on the spot and sitting here, but we will miss him terribly. It's just the way it is. I mean, there's nobody with humor like Dad. He wasn't a big talker, but if he said something, it was usually pretty funny. He would also, he always had a different take and a different look at things, right? And he would tell you how it is. He didn't mince words, but you knew where you stood with him. You knew what was going on. And don't ever play games with him because he cheats. So he cheats at games with us kids. We had to watch him all the time because he would cheat us, but we knew, and it was just part of the game, right? It was just kind of funny. He loved puzzles. You know, we would work huge puzzles every Christmas. There's all kinds of tributes like that that we will miss. He will be missed. He's well loved. And just couldn't ask for any better parent than what we had. So, miss you, Dad. And anyway, love you.
It's special to be a part of such a family. And my dad really, he started it by bringing everyone here. If you compare it to something, to a lesser degree, obviously, but he's like the patriarch for all of us who are here. And the kids, the grandkids, and all the future generations. We're here because of him and Mom. And to be here even at this hard time, to see the number of people gathered around. Not many people in the world have that. I'm grateful to be a part of that. I'm grateful for all the family that I have. And it's special when we consider that this is all because of Mom and Dad. And I'm so truly grateful. This is the place that we were meant to be. And our hearts will always be here. And we love you so much, Dad.
I just want to say that I can never be more grateful for having a mother and father-in-law like I have. For the last 21 years, they have always been very good to me, and they took me in and treated me just like one of their own daughters. And I'm very thankful, and I will never forget them for that.
I guess I'm just at a loss of words. Dad was always the hardest working. person I knew, I didn't always understand. But when I got old enough, I wanted to be. Just like him. Dad was always there for me. Always was there for me. Whenever he needed, I went to him. Hopefully the values he instilled in me, I can pass on to my boys and girls. Mom and Dad both passed on to me a lot of values that I hold dear today. I didn't always say it, but I do love Dad so much. And I'm thankful for everything that he is meant to me.
Hey, Dad. I love you. I'm really going to miss you. You did a great job raising us.
Okay, Melvin Marks, Papa, friend, my second father. I just appreciate so much what you've meant to me and how you've adopted me into your family, built me a house, and how you taught me to be generous to everybody, even those people that you know are just taking you for a ride. You still helped them out and taught me how to do that as well. Your service to the community, and you never met a stranger that you wouldn't help if you felt they needed help. It's just an example to what we should all be in our lives, and you've just meant so much to me. You and Mama are just the best in the world, and I couldn't ask for a better second mom and dad. And I love the way that if I was wrong, you told me I was wrong. If I was right, you encouraged me. When I wanted to start a business, you gave me your business savvy advice, and just raised the best family ever. And I love the fact that they're staying in the community and being such good contributors to the community and adding the kind of leadership that you and Mama have to the community. And you have changed this county in so many ways, and changed the perception of what a Catholic is and what we should be and how we should act. And I just want to thank you so much for being Melvin, as stubborn as you can be. You still have been an inspiration to so many, and absolutely have changed my life for the better, and taught me to be the best that I can be. Thank you so much, Papa, for being you.
I just want to say thank you to Melvin Marks for being my husband for 58 years. I want him to know how much I love him, and thank him for the wonderful life that we've had, and for all of our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And we love Papa, and we love all of our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And it's so hard to say goodbye. And we know Papa's going to heaven. He's a good man. And I guess that pretty much sums it up. We all would not be who we are if it were not for him. And we love him very, very much. He has been a wonderful, wonderful man. And goodbye, Papa. And we love you very much. And thank you for enriching all of our lives.